$1 million in revenue for 15 years straight with a team of 6. Peter Kornberg built UX hires without ever working a day as an agency recruiter.
I think an advantage in our case anyway was that we're not coming out of a recruitment background. We just looked at things almost like a design problem is.
But his model wasn't always very lean and profitable. In 2021, they had 60 open vacancies, a team of employees physically in a very expensive New York City office. Peter thought, growth mode, let's hire a leader to run the business.
He didn't bring any business. He wasn't effective at managing.
Peter admits that he was grinding hard, but he was burning out. They were taking on any bit of business they could coming through the door, but there was absolutely no consistency with job flow on a month-to-month basis.
We didn't effectively weight them. Everything was money. Everything was opportunity. So we just went for everything.
So the team wasn't very profitable and the model wasn't working. Peter stripped it back. He kept only his best recruiters and sources, people who could deliver exceptional outcomes regardless of market conditions.
Really focus on people that can deliver great outcomes. They can produce a lot. I really know their subject matter incredibly well. And then I can handle the rest around that, which is client relationships.
He split the team between sourcing and recruiting. So recruiters are essentially client-facing, managing roles, and sources spend all day finding candidates. So no 360 recruiters in the team chasing individual quotas. No one else looking at new business. Guys just delivering the work that Peter brings in. He's now built a business that has 60% contract revenue coming in every single month. So that's high margin, predictable cash flow without much complexity. And the best bit is he spends his time working majority on the business rather than in the business in delivery.
I could probably get more done in 5 hours of really productive work than 15 hours of grinding away and burning out.
So a couple of years ago, the choice was clear. Could he keep carrying expensive headcount that wasn't overly profitable? Or could he build something that's sustainable around himself that actually worked?
Every single day is an opportunity. What makes a valuable business to sell is the same thing that makes it a good business, period.
So year after year, he's hit 7 figures plus with a very lean team, highly profitable, and the most important bit, he is enjoying the journey. So this is a RAG podcast, brand new episode with Peter Kornberg on how a non-recruiter built a 7-figure agency by maximizing his strengths and delegating the rest. Also, Peter, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
I know. It's the afternoon on a Tuesday in the UK as we record this, and it's late morning where you are in the US?
Late morning in New York City.
Yeah, we've just been talking about the lack of slowdown in the US. What's the market like? I mean, broad question, but what's the market like, would you say, as we enter the middle of January in recording?
Well, uncertain, but I think less uncertain than last year. I think that at least as it relates to the U.S. market specifically, I think that people had money last year. People were ready to hire. The uncertainty was less around fundamental economic issues and more around just a new president, policies, a much more uncertain environment overall from that perspective. So people were more cautious. Yeah. But I think now that people are getting used to this new administration and some of the policies and things are settling, that the fundamentals are really good and people are probably more willing and more excited to get back to work, so to speak, and start spending money and moving forward on a lot of their big plans this year. So I'm optimistic about 26. Again, I think the fundamentals were really good last year. They're still good this year.
That's great. So I've done a brief introduction, Peter, but I can never do it justice. Do us a favor, just tell on a bird's eye level, none of the detail, none of the story, just like 30-second elevator pitch, who you are and what you do right now in the business, and then we'll go back and tell the story.
Sure. So we have a staffing and recruiting firm called UX Hires based in New York City for the last 15 plus years. We're part of a little bit of a larger group that includes a product design agency, consultancy, a customer experience strategy agency as well. So very synergistic around product and technology. Mm-hmm. And we're primarily focused on providing talent to companies that are looking for UX, UI designers, product designers, and then roles around that. So product management, product marketing, et cetera. Sometimes also developers. We work with everyone from startups to Fortune 100 companies, and primarily national US, a little bit in Canada as well.
Okay. And you, how many people are in the business?
There are 6 of us.
6 in the staffing business. And am I right in believing you came from more on the design side originally yourself?
I was not a recruiter. I never was before. My background was in advertising and marketing. I was a chief digital officer, a chief experience officer. So much more on the business and technology side of the equation, not on the staffing side. And for us, staffing and recruiting was purely opportunistic. Is that we had around 2014, 2013 or so, we had clients coming to us through the agency, the design agency door. They probably couldn't afford what we were doing or didn't want to commit to that level of engagement. So we just said, look, we can provide you some talent. And that led, from one day to another, and suddenly became a big part of our business. So, we were super, super niche in that space. So we had the credibility of the design agency behind us, and we had a massive network of talent. So for us, it was really just a natural step to get in there, and we learned the business as we went.
So
we figured it out.
were you almost making recommendations ad hoc and then thinking this is a commercial business?
It was totally ad hoc. We had no idea what we were doing. As it relates to staffing, it wasn't that complicated, right? It was like we have an hourly rate anyway for our staff. If they had capacity, we would farm them out to people. But in terms of the dynamics of actually looking for full-time people, and we evolved also what we call hybrid recruiting, is we have managed teams, we have pods, we have fractional, we have counters. We had to figure all those things out our own way. And I think something you and I talked about before when we first met is, I think an advantage in our case anyway was that we're not coming out of a recruitment background. Is we just looked at things almost like a design problem. Is how do we solve this particular thing? Yeah, we did research, we talked to recruiters, but we still found our own way. I don't think it's anything revolutionary about what we're doing, but it's a little bit tailored to how we like to work.
So paint the picture then. Talk us through day one of you making the decision to full-time focus on recruiting.
I think for us, it was that it's so for the design agency specifically, the level of accountability and complexity for generating revenue is really, really high. Yeah. You're solving big business problems. There's a lot of risk involved, very high dollar numbers behind that. It's very, very intense. And with staffing and recruiting, we saw it as a way to generate similar income for a lot less complexity, sometimes much higher margins. A lot more predictability in revenue from a project-based business, especially on the staffing side, where we could actually have people embedded with teams on the client side for weeks or months or years. It just became a very lucrative business. So I think it wasn't really a moment in time we said this is going to be it. It was more of a natural progression where this is just really desirable for us and very synergistic to what we're doing anyway. So, why not? We still will take assignments on the design side. We have the network to execute on that, so we can if we want to, but we're not bound to that, and gives us so much more agility as a business.
So you don't split it into pure recruiting teams and pure design teams then? Is it all just combined?
We do. Yep, it still do. But in terms of the design work that we do, the product work, we still pull from the same talent network. So for example, it's the same contractors or freelancers that we might place with the client on the staffing side will work on the design projects anyway. So there's not a dedicated full-time team. That was a big part of our pivot around 2017 was we had a pretty big full-time team on the design side, but we found that the variety of projects and the project needs from our clients was so diverse that we didn't have the team very often. We had to hire contractors anyway. Yeah. So you have full-time people with all the benefits and overhead everything sitting there, but you're hiring a contractor who's so much more specialized. So we decided it was better to have what we call the Core Plus team, which was a much smaller full-time team at the time. And then a lot of contractor partners that we could cycle through projects. So the two businesses are incredibly synergistic. It's the same staff, and we have a lot more than that, but the staff in the center of that, so to speak, they can work on both sides. And I've got people I've been working with as contractors for 10 plus years in some cases, like really, really enduring partnerships.
So how do you break down the team at your business then? What does it look like? The six of you, what do you guys do?
So I think we're maybe a little bit different than some recruiters would do it. Is we're split between sourcing and recruiting. So we don't have full desk recruiters that go out and hunt new business, source a place. We have recruiters who are specialized in our space, and then we have sourcers who just go find people. That's all they do. So their job is to scour for new talent or go through our network, qualify people, tee them up for interviews, for screening calls with our recruiters. My job is more of an executive sponsor. I'll work on executive recruitment, higher level, more senior roles, but otherwise it's more of a client engagement lead. This sort of the accountable party for our clients. So, but this worked very well for us, and we don't give our team quotas to go hunt for clients. It's all relationship-based building. So it's really focused on go find the best talent and make the best match.
So in terms of the ability to determine or to present to a client, whether it is a pure staffing play or whether it's a statement of work type project, is that just you, or have you been able to build a team around you that can do that? Because that's quite a complex sale.
It's just me on that side of it. It's actually less complex than you might think, because it's really just what level of accountability does the client want? Do they want something really turnkey? Like, I want this thing designed and delivered. That's going to be an agency play. If it's I want a team of people to do things with me in-house embedded, that's a staffing play. Or I want to hire a head of design or head of UX or, a new marketing director. That's going to be, full-time recruiting. Sometimes a mix and match will say, you want us to have some accountability, but you want more control. As we can build a team for people, have a pod, we call it, like a managed pod, and we'll install a leader and a couple of designers or researchers or whatever around them, and let them go, but work with the client directly. So there's a way to mix and match, but there's not a lot of overlap. And usually it's accountability and money, of course, because it's also strange. It's a phenomenon that we discovered later on when we entered the recruiting side, is the budgets are different. So somebody might completely freak out when you say, I'm going to charge you 20% first year annual base salary for a $200,000, senior designer. So that's, $40,000. They'll say, that's so much money. I can't believe how much your fees are. But they'll spend $140,000 on staffing over the course of the year and not even care, because it's coming out of a different operational budget. So we also exploit that to an extent, for lack of a better word, is there's an appetite to spend on staffing that sometimes they don't want to spend on full-time people.
But it all comes down to a business need, right?
Like, it's always a business need.
No one wakes up and goes, I want to recruit a lot of contractors. Like, they don't. That's not the goal. The goal is the business is trying to solve a problem or achieve an outcome, and it's being able to then dissect what they really want and determine what the right fit is.
That decision is usually made before they come to us. Where we might help them a little bit is, for example, if they come in and say we want to hire a full-time person, and in the brief that they had is a tough brief, we can say perhaps a contractor could be a good bridge for the 3 to 6 months it might take to fill this role. It's a really complex role, really like sort of a unicorn type role. So we can sometimes help them figure out how to solve the business need in different ways. But more often than not, they're coming in and saying, here's the problem we have, right? We want contractors. We want a full-time person. So it doesn't have to be that consultative.
But with your background, surely you can see through just some of the surface level we want that contractor and be able to, I'm sure you can get to the root of the business and understand it quicker than an average UX recruiter.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the business problems are always the same. It's either capability or capacity. It's either we lack the capability in-house, we lack the capacity. People confuse those two things sometimes, right? But yeah, that is usually the issue is we need to get something done and we don't know how to do it, or we don't have we do know how to do it, but we don't have enough people to actually do it. Either way. But yeah, with startups especially, I think to your point, there's more consulting and advising there to get them where they need to go. Fractional leadership, for example, things like that could really help them because they're way more cost sensitive and the risk profile is much higher for them.
Okay. So is it your business or are you a partner? How is the structure set up?
I own the business 100%.
So when you set the business up, then it was a design consultancy essentially that you then...
Actually, my former business partner set it up years before I joined, and it was a pure design consultancy, and then morphed over time to strategy, design, staffing, recruiting, but under different brand names. That was really important for us to distinguish. That is, there's the credibility for each, but we didn't want to dilute either one or confuse people.
So you still got Catalyst, or is that?
So Catalyst is funny. So we're so. The benefit of a niche, I think any of you would know this, or your clients and your audience would know, is a niche is super beneficial. Like we're known for doing one thing really, really well, but it's also a limiting factor.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're talking, let's say it's a startup that's Series B funding, and they're like, hey, we want to hire lots of people. We didn't want to be left out of the conversation of, hey, we also need customer success, go to market, because we can't. It's just a matter of finding the right people. So we teed up Catalyst, and if you look at the website, it's practically identical to UX. It's very, very similar. It's the same team, but it's more broad in its positioning. For Catalyst, we position it more as anything a growing company would need. So customer success, go to market, product, engineering, and so on. We'll even bring in partners sometimes if it's really specialized in AI or cyber. That's been really, really special. Very good for us. Every now and then we'll do these crazy roles like a construction manager in Texas. Something. Right now we have a role for a commercial insurance producer, in California. So we don't go looking for that kind of stuff, but we're willing to just to an extent take those on into the Catalyst brand. And if we believe we can actually do a good job with it, we'll do it. But where we really put our effort in terms of networking, growing our business is on the really specialized side on UX hires.
So how has the business evolved as a team and commercially? Like, talk us through the journey over the last 10 years. Not going year on year, but like, how has it gone over the last 10 years?
Yeah, so at the beginning, it was totally bootstrapped with, the principles of the company trying to figure things out and throwing tasks at anyone from an executive assistant to, our CFO at the time, just trying to figure things out. That evolved into a much more formal, I think much more traditional recruitment structure where we actually hired a number of full-time recruiters and a leader. We had them in office in New York City. It was a pretty expensive team. We invested a lot, but we found that it wasn't that lucrative. Maybe we had the wrong people at the time. They weren't as driven as they did an ownership mentality, I'll put it that way. So where we wound up mostly was carrying that team back to the best recruiters, the best sourcers, who just really understood their roles the best. I think the biggest change was that we hired a leader for that business. It didn't work out. It's probably a very common story. It's hard to delegate that out to people. So he didn't bring in any business. He wasn't particularly effective at managing, didn't really fulfill that potential. That's a lesson we all learned. It's very hard to hire for business development type role. So the evolution was just really focus on people that can deliver great outcomes. They can produce a lot, really know their subject matter incredibly well. And then I can handle the rest around that, which is client relationships, nurturing, and so on. So we tend to keep it very, very lean. If we have to scale, if we have more roles that we can also, for example, post-COVID, in 21, there was a massive boom for design, for product. I think at one point we had 45, 50, 60 open recs. It's absolutely insane. So we'll just bring on more sourcers or more recruiters contract if we need to plug in those gaps. So it's a little bit more elastic, a little more agile right now, which I really like. In terms of scaling, I think we'd have to hire more people over time. It really depends on what our focus area is going to be to do that.
Yeah, I think as an industry-wide issue in that 21, 22 time was the demand was so high, people just brought sources in, right? People who could fill, but you've kind of got the model that fits that. Whereas when people don't have a model that's like front end and back end, they brought a load of sources in, and then when the market tightened, they didn't have the skills to go out and win business, and there was no model where other people are going to pass it to them, then they've had to let them go, or they've failed. And it's been a really, really interesting few years for the industry, and a lot of talent come in, a lot of talent gone out, same people that filled the gap for a period. But like, I do a lot of interviews on this show, and a lot of the people are a similar sort of size and scale to you. And I think there's no one way to do this, but the more I meet people in a similar capacity where they are the brand, they've got the business development, and then they've got people doing the parts of the job around them, there tends to be like a sustainable, I don't know, what's the word? A sustainable, repeatable model there that people are enjoying. Like, they actually like their job. Whereas when people are chained to every part of the recruitment cycle, I'm finding people are burnt out and they feel like they've got no time. Like, have you ever been in that position where, you were completely stretched? Like, when did things get on top in the past?
Yeah, of course, many times. And I would say when we shifted to the core plus model, the design agency side, for example, uh, we had a lot of business, and it really fell on us few to really handle it. On the recruiting side, it's the same thing, which is I think we made it, the mistake that we made in 21 with, whatever 60 open roles on average is we didn't effectively weight them. Everything was money, everything was opportunity. So we just went for everything. Of course, being very naive, that probably 20% of those were really high potential, and the rest were the clients that couldn't make up their mind, or the companies, that kind of stuff. So we definitely took on much more than we could handle. And I think that is, to your point, to make it sustainable, it really has to be far more decisive around who you take on, who you want to work with, where you spend your time and your money. One thing I didn't mention before about our model is we work with a lot of partners. So we work with other recruiters that are really specialized in areas that we're not. And that's also been very beneficial. So we'll do, commission split, things like that, where it's, hey, I don't do this kind of role at all. I don't want to spend any time on it. I'll give it to you, and you can use feedback if you're successful. So that also helps lighten the load, alleviate the burden a little bit.
They work under your banner for that one role, or would you just introduce them as a partner?
Depends. We do both. Sometimes we white label. It depends on the sensitivity of the relationship. Yeah. We might white label. Otherwise, we might just hand it over to them and say, hey, just take it on.
Yeah.
And I'm always very transparent with our clients and say, we're not the right ones for this guy or this girl is, you take that on, or yes, we can do it. And here's the person that's going to do it. You're right behind us, and I'll introduce that person as part of our team.
So talk us through like the life cycle then. So where do the opportunities come from in your business? Like, how do you get new business opportunities?
We're probably pretty typical of a lot of recruitment firms where we're not marketers. So we're not very good at hunting net new logos. We've tried. We definitely tried in the past. We've probably done everything everyone else has tried in terms of email marketing and cold calling and every kind of campaign possible. But the most effective for us has been just really networking. Is just events and conferences and referrals, and we had very high ranking for search on our website for UX hires. So we get a fair amount of inbound. That's been our primary source. It's very choppy. You can't rely on that. It's been consistent over, year on year, but it's also feast or famine, right? So you can have a really good month where you have more work than you could possibly handle, and in the next month, it's absolutely zero. So in terms of a systematized business development engine that's driving top of funnel opportunities, we don't really have that in place. We should. Yes, you and I have talked about before as well, but it's been across the board for a decade plus, just, a lot of inbound organic and things flying over the fence at us, and we're taking it. And then again, partnership referrals have been really good. We give and get. So we definitely, things that we take in, we give out, vice versa. So that's also a very good source for us.
So a role comes in off, let's say, the website or through a partner. What's the process? Does it come directly to you first?
Comes to me first. I'll do a quick screen myself. I'll look at, you can get a pretty good gut check right away from spending 90 seconds looking at the company, the title, the message that they sent. And then from there, I'll respond very quickly. We respond within 2 hours of getting a lead at the most. Send a scheduling link and then schedule a call. I might do one follow-up, if not two, if they don't schedule, and that's it. We don't push any harder than that. So either they want to work, either they want to connect with us or they don't. I'm not going to chase them endlessly. Then we have a conversation, and it's typically a 30-minute intro call maximum. So you kind of hear about what they're looking for, how you might help. We do very well on those calls. We have an extremely high conversion rate once you're going to call with people because we're specialized. We also are very even, very transparent.
Coming in as well. It's not like you're out now and calling, right? They're coming to you for the sake of wanting it. You say you've got data and like metrics that you work towards to manage that, to ratios of how many meetings you need to bring on a role, etc.
Because we don't have the engine, driving a pipeline that is, volume based. We don't. I've got a revenue number I want hit for the year, and I have a sense of how many placements or how many contracts we would need. But in terms of chasing it, no. And that's a weak point for us.
Fair. So in terms of the initial consultation, you then will recommend the output based on the Is it UX hires? Is it the agency, or is it going to a
Well,
catalyst?
if they come in through UX hires, I will rarely pitch the agency. If they,
Right.
if it's leaning towards that, I would probably pitch like a managed pod, something like this if they really want to. It's pretty rare to upsell to the full agency model. They really they're looking for recruiters or staffing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a determination up front is how best to solve their particular problem. And also budget will be an issue because you get a fair number of startups that come in that just don't have any money. They have a high demand, but they don't have a lot of cash to spend. So we'll think about, all right, what's a way that we can solve this and still make a little bit of money and satisfy the client? He just understood the business problem. So it might be a 3-month engagement with a contractor that's embedded for a while, prove ourselves. Really depends on what they can do.
But that requires your thinking time to present back. And then once the client says yes, do you sign a retained agreement? Is there an upfront fee? How does it work?
We do a couple of different things. We always will try to avoid pure contingency engagements. So for full-time recruitment. So what I'll typically do is pitch an upfront fee that's applied towards the contingency part of that. So it's a hybrid model. Some clients are very happy to do that. I've dabbled with everything from $1,000 to 50%, whatever it is. Every client's a little bit different, but yeah, I better have some cash upfront, non-refundable upfront, initial payment, and then apply towards the contingency fee if we are successful. But the staffing side is a pure markup on the hourly rate, and that's it. And we make it really easy to get out of that contract so that the person might start within 24 hours. They can work as long or as short as the client wants. A lot of our competitors, there are not many of them, but they'll lock clients into pretty strict terms about termination. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. So we make it really easy to sell. And then the person just starts working. So every hour they're working, we're making a markup on the hourly rate.
How is that? Have you got a bill and pay system that tracks everything that automatically runs that?
We have a contract finance director that does all that for us. It tracks everything in an hour in a time tracking system. We use a platform called JustWorks. Yeah. So they'll go through that. Yeah, they track their hours, and we bill based on that. We bill bi-weekly. So there's money always coming in. I've had people, at one point I had 5 people with a Fortune 500 company for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So you make that effort one time, you spend maybe, say 3 or 4 weeks getting a team together, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just off
the contract model, right? It's the best. It's the best in the fact that you get paid continually for the work that you did once.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's the best. It's the best.
Okay. So then, all right. So you get the role. You give it to a recruiter who then takes that role. Do you give the relationship and the communication to the hiring manager and everything to that person as well? Or do they?
Usually if it's a more important relationship, I might stay involved longer, if not the whole time, but I'm happy to let go. Always be on CC. It's very rare that I would be really front and center for something all the way through. That's a very senior strategic role where I feel there's a lot of potential for long term. So, for example, we have a client right now in the American West in California that is looking for their first ever sales director, head of sales. And they're probably going to hire 25 people over the next 12 to 18 months. And I want to be that partner for them. So I'm really focused on delivering success for this first hire. So I'm very, very hands-on, to the point where the client's texting me, all day long kind of thing. So I'm happy to do that because it's a good relationship. I can build it, and then we build that trust.
If you're going to hire someone offshore, make sure you pick the right partner. Today's sponsor, Remote Recruitment, are my partner of choice. And the reason is they put every single South African hire through a 15-point vetting system. They run a bespoke trial built with you, so you see what they're like before they even enter your business. They do the final interview after proof of performance. And there's a free 12-month replacement if they're not right. So there's no seeing random CVs and loads of interviews. It's just a really seamless process that is stringent, it's organized, and it works. And if they don't work it out, look, they'll replace it really, really quick. So you don't need to worry about national insurance, NI, setting up companies. They manage the whole piece without you worrying. Now, if you're a RAG listener, you get 5% off your first hire. You get a free remote hiring roadmap, and they've got an ROI calculator that you can look at back office and business development roles and see the impact they can have on your business. If you'd like to access this amazing offer, go to www.remoterecruitment.co.uk/RAG. So if you've got 3 guys around you who you're feeding roles to, right? How do you manage the capacity element? How do you make sure they're busy enough and you've got enough work for them at all times?
It's arbitrary because again, we don't have the engine and the machine, right? So it sounds primitive, and it is, but we've been lucky that our organic has been sufficient, or our inbound has been sufficient to do that. There are definitely times where people are less busy, and we rely then on staffing placements that are bringing in cash flow, or high margin full time placements, but it's not ideal. The sourcers are on contract. There's more flexibility there for how many hours they work. But yeah, it's a challenge in given weeks or months where we're not that busy. But it comes down again to that predictable engine, or that systematic engine that would drive a more predictable baseline of revenue.
If you're looking at a 12-month, you must know over a 12-month of $1 million or whatever that you need 3 people. Like, is there a way have you broke that down? Otherwise, why wouldn't you just have one? Like,
because that's because the volume is sufficient.
Yeah.
So we do have the volume to justify the number of people. And I know on an annualized basis, we've always hit that number or exceeded it in some years significantly. So I feel confident we can sustain the team for that amount of time. It does raise the question often, right? Is this year different? Is this quarter different? It's all, I think, for all of us, right? You're always thinking that way, what's going to be different now? You just never know. So I'd rather try and stick with the team and hedge a little bit and be prepared. And if I see a bigger macro trend happening, I can react if I need to.
Sure. How do you decide which of your recruiters you give the work to?
Personality is part of it. Okay. Is some do better with different types of clients, different relationships. Some are much more personable and very enthusiastic, some are a little bit more academic, more teachers or professors. And then specialization is important. I have one who's extremely specific to product design and researchers, product roles. Another one who's much more around a holistic view, like I mentioned before, things like go-to-market, customer success. And then one who's much more on technology, which includes elements of design. So there's overlap across it. Yeah. But if you're looking for example, we have a potential role that was inbound for a head of design for an ed tech company based in the US. For that senior role that's super special, it would go to that recruiter that is just hyper specialized on design. There's no question around that. If it was something a little bit less specific, it could go to anybody.
Okay. So you said every year you've made $1 million or more.
I think going back, I have to go back through the last 10 plus years. There were years probably less than that, and years certainly more than that. That's probably our average, at least. I mean, we had one client in 2015 that did $700,000. I had one client that did $1.5 million over the course of around 14, 15 months.
Yeah.
So it really bounces around. That's our baseline. I think it's a fair baseline. And around 50% of that would be staffing, maybe more, maybe 60% would be staffing, and the remainder would be full-time placements.
Right. So staffing, you mean like daily contractors, and the rest is perm. Yeah. So okay, cool. Look, like you say, I really love your model. It's actually quite similar in a way to what I've got at Hoxo in a slightly different business, because it's like, my brand is out there. The difference is I don't take every call that comes in, but the brand comes in typically through my marketing channels. And then I have a sales team around that. And then I have a delivery team and then I have a marketing, sales, and delivery. And I just kind of hover across all of it. So my job is, I'm not doing one thing at any one time. I'm kind of, which I don't know if you deal with that. Like, context switching is a big thing, I think, as an entrepreneur. Like, 1 minute you're in a call about this, and 10 minutes later you're in a call about something completely different. And some employees, I think, would really struggle with that. I get stressed out about it, but I actually think it's what I love the most about what I do.
Yeah, understand. I was saying.
So talk me through the mindset of Peter around this, because a lot of what you've said there is feast and famine, bit of a roller coaster, actually macro annually consistent, but throughout the year there must be some real moments where you're questioning yourself. And how do you get through it? Like, what's your formula to remaining so consistent?
Well, I'm not always so consistent. I mean, I'm vulnerable like anybody, right? So I think that there's a practical side and there's a philosophical side. I think from a practical side, like any entrepreneur, you want to try and build systems. You want to try and get ahead of things. You want to try and invest where you should be investing, have good partners, good vendors, good people around you that can really help you navigate that. I think I've led really big teams, not as an entrepreneur, but also as an entrepreneur, work in big companies as well. So, you learn how to build systems that can try and help you out. I'm also the same way, by the way. Context switching is very stressful, but I love it. I love the variety of the day and so on. The philosophical side, though, is I think you have to be physically and mentally as strong as you possibly can to be an entrepreneur. It's really, really hard work. I meet lots of people that do not want to do things for themselves. And I respect that. I would never judge anybody for wanting to get a full-time job on their own, just work for a company for their career. No problem. Yeah. It's not for everybody. So I think being grounded, taking the time for yourself, having a little bit of work-life balance, even little things make a huge difference, because this stuff can consume you. It can eat you. And I've been there so many times where it just eats you alive. And you realize, I'll give you one example, is not even too long ago, it was, I have to sit at my desk or whatever, 15 hours a day. I need to grind every single day for 15, 16, 17 hours. Just go, 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 go. And of course, you burn out. I realize, wait a second, I could probably get more done in 5 hours of really productive work than 15 hours of sort of this, whatever, grinding away and burning out. So that kind of stuff I found really, really powerful. And I'm fortunate I'm part of a lot of different business organizations and groups where you have a chance to learn and compare.
Yeah.
So I think you have to find the tricks that work for yourself. I think the one thing that does not work for anybody is you cannot hustle and grind forever. You have to find a way to balance things out.
Do you have any set rules for the week or the day that you live by?
The one thing I do is I do time blocking.
Right.
That's the most important thing for me in the last couple of years. Is I to your point about context switching is you can just bounce around all day long. So I really try and block it out, which is there's block one. It's a chunk of time. It's a little bit it could be longer or shorter. That's just for client activity. Current clients. Yeah. Block two might be time with my family. It doesn't matter. I really try, and if I have to adapt, I can move blocks around, but those blocks have to happen every single day.
And you try not to interrupt the blocks, because I think it's exactly the kind of phase I'm in. So I posted about a lot of it last week, and I've had some interesting comments from other recruitment founders. Like for example, on a Monday morning now, it's actually 9:30. 9 till 12 was the original, and then 9:30 till 12 is what I spend on my content for the week. So actually 30 minutes getting the team ready and just dealing with what's there. And then I switch everything off. Like no one's talking to me from 9:30 till 12. But my content for the week is done. By the time I go and pick my daughter up from nursery at 12, by the time I do that, I'm not writing anything new on LinkedIn that week, which used to be
the way to do it.
Yeah, it used to be a really daily thing for me. And look, I was very good at it and I've seen some great successes, but it's the constant thinking that I struggle with. And people are like, well, yeah, but what if you get the idea on the day, on a Wednesday or in the shower? I'm like, well, I'll just write that down. And then that just gives me info for Monday next week. So that's,
you can also time block even just to kind of a catch-all. I'm going to have an hour where I'm not going to do anything. Just let it kind of flow and be more flexible. But I think that the time blocking is very helpful. The block has to happen every single day. The block can move around the day. I'm also kind to myself now, where it's like if I blocked 90 minutes but I only did 30 minutes, it's okay. I still did it, right? So I think it's important that I don't believe in these people that post. It's for the last 20 years, right? People are posting, I wake up at exactly 6, I journal for 15 minutes, I have my, my mushroom coffee, whatever it is. It's not sustainable. You got to have a little bit of reality.
If you have no kids, maybe I think things like that are sustainable.
Life happens, right? Yeah. I got kids. Yeah. There could be a storm outside, whatever. Things happen.
One of the guys, Jamie Fraser, he's a fucking mega entrepreneur. He wants to sell for 100 million. I've never interviewed him, but I'd like to. And he commented on my post and he's saying, look, Sean, that is a waste of a Monday morning. His words were, no entrepreneur, no founder should ever do this on a Monday morning. I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing all right.
There's rules.
But I like the way he's got his opinions, right? And I respect him. I said, look, you got a great brand, so what would you do differently? And his words were, do what you're saying on the weekend. I'm like, I'm pretty confident he's got no kids. I might be wrong. I'm pretty confident he's got no kids. I ain't giving up 3 hours of the fucking weekend to write content on LinkedIn. I'd rather not do it than miss my daughter and it's just not happening. So different stages of your life, you can commit different things to the business. And
That's right.
and for me,
And there are 10,000 ideas.
Yeah.
There are 10 million opinions out there. You just got to, I think they're all, you can be inspired. You can take whatever you want from everyone. You got to make it your own somehow. And I think that it's when you prescribe yourself to a certain path that somebody else is outlined, it may not work. It's a lot of trial and error to figure out what works for you. And it might be a hodgepodge collection of ideas from 50 different sources. Nothing about myself is that original, but I think just I made it my own. Yeah. That's the most important thing.
So the guys you got recruiting, how experienced were they when you brought them in? Like, were they already recruiters that you hired?
Very experienced.
Right.
Yeah, very experienced. We not always, because there's a mindset that I had and my former business partner had also, which is, I think it's mistaken. It was noble. We always believed that anybody could do anything. Like you could really, if they had the we called it the 80-20 rule, is you hire for the 80%, which is the personality, the aptitude, the drive. 20% was the skill set. If that's true, then it's like anybody could do anything, but we find it's not the case. Yeah. There's no substitute for some real experience. So yeah, we want people that really know how to do their job. They like doing their job and they're exceptionally good at it. That's the most important thing.
I think you just nailed it, by the way. Like it and are good at it. They're the two things I think that are the most important for everyone. Like for me, I'm building my job around what I like and I think I'm the best at. And it sounds like you're doing something quite similar, where like you're spending your days doing the two things you like or the things you're good at and you like. But I like the way you've gone out and let's say you've got experienced people around you. What freedom does that give you as an entrepreneur? So you've got those people working the roles that you're bringing in.
Yeah, so I don't have to do the work that I really don't enjoy, and there are things I really do not enjoy doing, even if I'm good at it. And one of them is sourcing and recruiting. I don't want to go find candidates. I don't want to interview candidates. I do it sometimes if I need to get for senior roles, because I want to be perhaps the last checkpoint before it goes to a really important client. But it's not work that I want to do. I hate doing presentations and proposals, for example. I'm really good at it. I dread it, and I will procrastinate forever. So it's that kind of stuff. Is I want to get things off my plate that I really don't want to do. There are things I'm not good at, of course. I don't want to do, but there are even things I am good at. I just want to do those things. I want to focus on where I think my value is the most. And I think working on the business as much as possible, as they say, is the best way to go. An hour of my time thinking about where the business can go and important relationships and business development is a better hour spent than talking to a candidate.
It's funny though, I did a post about this as well about a month ago, just before Christmas. And I said, resourcing is probably the biggest drag on a lot of recruitment owners. And someone like commented on it again, like, you're saying like the biggest drag of a recruitment business is the product. And they were basically saying I was, it's ridiculous what I was saying. I was like, but that doesn't mean, that's like saying Zuckerberg should still be coding Facebook. That's what someone wrote underneath. He's like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you want to do it forever. And that's right. And I think it's really, I don't know what it is. I find across the founder community, people either go one way or the other. They either really do love the candidate side and want to hold on to that, or they're more like you, where they're like, I just love speaking to customers and selling and coming up with solutions and thinking forward.
I think it's so important to figure out, what that side of things as an entrepreneur. I'll give you an example is we're working with an SDR, a sales guy right now, who just loves to cold call all day long. And I would never want to do that. I wouldn't be very good at it.
No.
But he's like, yeah, I'll sit here all day and I'll dial. And he's good and he gets people and he makes money. It's absolutely amazing. So I think it's the same for recruiting and sourcing. Is that people they love what they're doing, and it's like great. That's awesome. So I think that's the way to go, is to find right person, right seat is really important.
So let's talk about this year then. So it's 2026. You've got the team. You've got a really it's a strong model. Obviously, there's an element of uncertainty in some of the predictability of inbound. But what do you see as what you're trying to achieve this year?
Yes, I think this year, I would have said maybe mid-year last year that this year would just be the same. Hit maybe try and grow a little bit, but it's going to be different in one major way, which I think no surprise to you is around AI, and how AI is entering into so many conversations. And for us, it's a massive macro trend that we have to seriously look at. No one knows where it's going, but it definitely affects almost every role that we would typically look at. And it means there's more of like a bifurcation on the client side. So you got clients that come in and say, who would have come in, now they're saying we can do this with AI, which is not true. They can't solve their need with an AI solution. Others more commonly say, we want people who are AI savvy, AI experienced, whether it's having built products or worked with the marketing stack that is AI enabled, using AI tools. That's a big thing for us. And you don't have the level of volume of talent that has that experience. So we had a client last year that was an AI startup in San Francisco. Every single role was someone who had to have worked in AI. So there was a product marketer, a researcher, didn't matter. And so finding people that have worked in AI in a commercial way, at a certain level of their career and certain salary ranges is not easy. So that's a big deal. And I think a lot of clients, I expect we're going to get more inbound from companies that dabbled. It's like the dabbling disaster, we call it. They dabbled with AI and realized it didn't work.
Yep.
You need a human. So I think my prediction is that the kind of roles we're going to be filling will still be the execution roles, maybe not as many junior roles, but more and more, it's going to be more of a facilitator, curator type person who can bring a lot of strategic value to a company. It's like, yes, I can design things, but I also know now how to build a stack that's efficient, cost effective, and so on using AI tools, or I know how to design for AI. So I think it's going to become more specialized in that regard.
You think,
so that's across every single role.
Do you see a lot, like people in general in your space declining in terms of the amount of people working in roles in UX, UI, etc.?
What do you mean in terms of candidates?
Yeah, if you just look at like employed people in the US in those teams that you currently serve, do you see that?
I mean, UX is a weird thing. It's been on a perpetual decline, and UX is very strange because it's always been seen as a nice to have versus a must have. I'm generalizing, and I think that it's weird because for me it is the secret sauce to a successful product or business. Much like marketing would be. So the demand is there, but I think people are now going to try to avoid it when they can. To take a typically early stage startup it's a couple of engineers and they're the founders. They have to build a product. They're going to vibe code or they're going to vibe design, I should say. They'll vibe design a product because they have no clue. They'll think it's an MVP. And then of course it's not anything real at all. And if you already have a startup that is lacking a product market fit, there's no validation there. You're not even sure who their target audience is. They have no revenue, no customers. And they're launching with a product that they made on Lovable, which is an amazing platform, but it's not, you're going to learn the hard way that it's not the same thing. And I'll give one example is on the design agency side, we have a client, a big global client, where we're doing a new global website for them. And it's not even that complicated. It's not even, as a website, nothing that extraordinary, but managing that client dynamic, all the stakeholders and conversations and discovery, it was a year of work that AI could never possibly do. So it's this weird navigation to this new paradigm, but I think there's going to be a settle-in at some point where people realize I need people after all, but maybe a little bit different kind of person than I were before. More AI-enabled talent.
So how do you, as a small team, how do you build your strategy around that? Like, what are you going to change this year for that?
I think becoming AI aware is important, and we've done it as a team. It's a little bit different than me. Like I'm very involved with AI design, AI technology on the agency side, but from a recruiting standpoint, the team is learning on the fly. It's so for example, if we mentioned that client last year, it was all these AI roles. Is we got the brief and we had to do some research and figure out, what exactly is this, what's the terminology, what does this person actually do, and learn on the go. And I think very quickly you become an expert. It's still a new thing. So you do a couple of roles like that and you meet people, you have the conversations, you become very savvy pretty quickly. And also, again, AI is new enough. It's not as deep as like cybersecurity, for example, or IT. Still a little bit of a smaller, more of a narrow band of talent and experience. So you learn as you go.
But you've got a pretty optimistic view on 2026 for yourselves, right? So you're not going into this year thinking it's Armageddon. You're going to have a slide in revenue, and you're going to be looking at your team and feeling negative about this.
I'm an optimist. I have a term that I created with my partner, my former partner. We could call it optimatic. It's optimistic and pragmatic.
Right.
I'm very pragmatic. I'm also very optimistic. I don't go into any year thinking that. You always you get the nerves a little bit, right? Which is the first quarter going to be quiet? Is this year different? You just never really know, which is a problem. But I don't want to think that way. Which is I have a decade plus of history. The business is always lit. I can be very conservative with my projections. I can be very cautious if I want to. I don't have to grow if I don't want to. But I try and look at it as every single day is an opportunity. And unless there's a macro or an external thing that's like COVID is affecting me, or tariffs, it's really just up to me. I have to go out there and figure it out. So I have every reason to be optimistic that there are opportunities out there. I read the news, I look at the economic news and trends and so on, and I will Google the term recession every now and then to see what the numbers. I do track, of course, but it's more to reinforce my optimism than my pessimism.
Yeah, I like him. I've seriously just blocked all news out of my life, pretty much. Social media,
yes,
gone.
It's horrible.
Mainstream news gone. I don't take it in. I use LinkedIn, and that's about it. And speak to the people that I care about and figure out information from people. I genuinely don't feel any need to just pollute my brain every day with negativity, because it is just fucking constantly trying to pull you in from a negative standpoint.
Yeah. It's noise, it's negativity, and also no one knows. Everyone's got an opinion, but no one knows. No. So I'd rather do my own research, and my own feeling about stuff, and ask clients and ask talent and ask, friends, like you're asking me. It's like, you have to get a feel for what's out there, and people will tell you. I think, and again, I'm part of those business groups where you hear from everybody in every industry what's happening. And I think you get a consensus of, again, it's cautious, it's uncertain, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. The fundamentals are good. At least in the US, the fundamentals are really, really good. We're just in our own way. We're dumb that way, as we create, because we are so good at hysterical mass media and noise and all this crap online, is we can psych ourselves out of a really good economy. Yeah. So you look past that.
Final question for you, Pierre, we've got to go, is if I bring you back in January next year, what do you want to be telling? Where do you want to be? Like, what would be the kind of achievements of the last year?
I would love to hit our number plus, 20%. I would love to have a real engine of business development that is at least able to bring in, a baseline of opportunity to being more predictability. I would like to have a stronger perspective on where AI is landing as it relates to the industries that we're working on, the roles that we work on, so we can be even more focused there. That's the main stuff, I think, is just, a healthy trajectory year on year is really important for me. If I started thinking someday around, do I want to sell the business? I might think differently about stuff, but otherwise it's really around, I want a healthy path.
I love
healthy in every way.
I love your energy. I think I'm striving for very similar. Enjoy
always striving. Always
sustainability, enjoyment, being around the right people, surrounding yourself with good people. I love my team. I love my client base. Obviously, I love the fact I can spend so much time with my family. I love the fact that the business is profitable. I wake up every day with energy. There's so much opportunity. Like, everything you said resonates with me. I'm not trying to build something that's going to exit right now, but that might change. But right now, I think the profitability of the business and the enjoyment is the two things that I'm constantly measuring and trying to keep up.
Yeah, I would say one thing about selling a business is I did some M&A work in the past with a couple of different companies, and I learned early on. And it's not anything that people don't already know, but what makes a valuable business to sell is the same thing that makes it a good business, period. So I think if we run our businesses as well as we possibly can, then the value is already there. So I think, if you wake up every day trying to just run a good business, is it profitable, sustainable, the things that everyone's striving to do, the selling part later on becomes sort of a no-brainer. It's easier. Those are all the metrics that people care about anyway.
But yeah. Well, Peter, look, I want to get you back on in the future. Thanks so much for giving us your time and giving us your unique insights. You've got an incredible business, like say, potentially a declining market, potentially uncertain times, but you've rock solid 7 figures plus year on year, nice lean team, profitable, you're enjoying it. It's the dream for a lot of people, what they've heard. If anyone's listened and wants to just pick your brains and go a bit deeper on any of the things you said, is it okay if they drop you a LinkedIn message?
Love to.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Always happy to chat.
Good luck for 2026. And like I say, we'll get you back on for part 2. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of the RAG podcast. If you haven't already, please do subscribe wherever you listen to this show. As the more subscribers we get, the more people will listen and the more recruitment owners we can help. As a recruitment founder, you must know that things are changing. AI is everywhere. Cold outreach is getting harder and job boards, well, they're not what they used to be. But personally, despite the negativity, I believe the future is the greatest opportunity of our lifetime in recruitment, because for the first time ever, a founder with 5 recruiters with a clear niche and the right systems can build the kind of influence, reach, and profitability that used to take 500 recruiters and a global office network. The agencies that are winning right now aren't necessarily the biggest, but they are the most visible, the most trusted, and the ones building inbound demand. At Hoxo, we're working with clients who are running multiple 6 and 7 figures in net profit, outperforming the negative noise and headlines. So, to explain what these guys are doing, I've created a brand new free masterclass video for RAG listeners. In this video, it's less than 10 minutes long. I'm going to show you what these businesses are doing differently from the rest. So the link's in the description. Fill in the form, watch the video, and see exactly how this system that these clients are using could work for your agency. Good luck.